that it stays put. So me and Moses are going to talk to you about, hi, say hi. We're going to talk to you about James chapter 1, verses 19 and 20. It says, beloved brethren, be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. And then verse 20 says, for the wrath of man does not equal the righteousness of God. So in this little demonstration, I'm going to show you just how important it is for us to be swift to hear and slow to speak and slow to wrath. Moses here is going to take the place of the believer, and I'm going to take the place of God. And so what I'm trying to get you to understand in this is that our tendency without Christ is to be swift to speak and swift to wrath, especially when something is not right biblically. Sorry, there's flies. If it's not right biblically, our quick wrath, we think that that's the right thing, you know, to be aggressively, I'm extremely aggressive, to be aggressively angry about a thing. We believe that that is a righteous cause sometimes, but God says not that. He says the opposite. If we're really swift to wrath, that doesn't equal the righteousness of God. You know, only Jesus is the righteousness of God. And so doing things the way the word says to do them is the righteousness of God. And then of course we are the righteousness of God in Christ. So what I'm trying to get, I think I kind of went around a circle here, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is it's better to be swift to hear and slow to speak, because often, you know, somebody will be saying something or you will see a situation and you'll be really quick to say something about it and you don't know all of the details. So that's the lesson. And I think you can get yourself into a jam doing that. So I'm going to go get on Moses. Y'all can't laugh because one of the only things I can't do on a horse is get on bareback. And he's giant. Heath can get on bareback. I can't even get on Rainface bareback. He's like this tall. Anyway, so I'm going to go over here where there's a big stump and I'm going to get on Moses. But you're going to still be able to hear me because I have my mic on, okay? Here we go. Come on, Mose. So this verse, James 1, chapter 1, verse 19, is a huge verse. It's like, it's so, I think almost every verse in the Bible I could say this about, but it's so profound and so helpful in everyday life. Oh my goodness. I hope you can still see me. I think you can. Okay. So swift to hear. I just barely touched Moses and he moved forward. I'm out of the frame right now, I think. Maybe not. Okay. I know you can see me now because I can see you. Okay. So I'm just moving him around here and I'm just going to trot around. Swift to hear. Ruby, move it, move it. Ruby was not swift to hear. And so she dang near got run over. So we want to be really swift to hear. As soon as God says something to us, we want to change. We want to move, right? So Moses is going around to the left here, and we're going to go to the right. And he was very swift. Although he flipped his tail, he's not super excited about changing directions. So let's see if we can. So that in horse language is wrath. So we want him to be slow to wrath. We don't want him to be swift to wrath, but he kind of is, right? Because he's kind of swishing his tail a lot. Let me get him going here. Sorry, I'm out of frame here. Okay, well, and I'm backing him up, and he's very swift to hear when I ask him to back up. It's one of Moses' favorite things. And so slow to speak here would be Moses wanting to do something himself, right? Like wanting to turn a certain direction or not. So him being slow to speak would be not doing what he wanted to do, instead listening to me. So swift to hear, so we can hear what God says. So Moses is swift to hear, so he can hear what I say. Ready? Going to the right. Whoop. Very swift to hear. Good boy. And slow to speak. He's not giving me his opinion. He's doing what I'm asking him to do, to the left again. And that is making him, that's the illustration of swift to hear, slow to speak. And now, if you take a look at me when I pass you, he's really not flipping his tail. Well, there he did. He's slow to wrath, okay? So he's taking a little bit of time before he gets upset with me. Whoa. And we're just going to back him up right here. Shh, 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 shh. See how docile he's being and quiet he's being? So Moses is an example of swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. He has a really long fuse, Because if you think about it, with horses and people, if Moses is the believer and the rider is God, I would be God in this situation. I'm not God. He lives on the inside of me, but I'm not him. Okay, got it? In this situation, his natural tendency is to get mad at me when I don't listen to him. He wants me to listen to him. He doesn't want to listen to me. So he has to put himself in a humble position to be swift to hear and slow to speak, right? And slow to wrath. But what people do, what horses do, is they don't want to hear you when they don't want to hear you. When they're being rebellious, they don't want to hear anything you have to say. They just want to do what they want to do. And they want to speak. They want to say, hey, let's go this way. Hey, let's go that way. That's them speaking. And then they want to be swift to wrath. Yes, they do. They want to get mad. Like if he wanted to go to the left and I want to get him to the right, and he had a temper and he wouldn't humble himself before me, he would like throw a fit and maybe buck, maybe jump around, maybe whatever, even swishing his tail, maybe all that stuff. And so that does not show a lot of humility when a horse acts like that, just like it doesn't show a lot of humility when a person acts like that. When a person is so set on their ways that they just get really angry. And so God says in verse 20, it says that the wrath of man does not equal the righteousness of God. Sometimes we think that we can get mad and rebellious and be like, no, I'm going this way. And that somehow is gonna be righteous. We can also take that verse like if we get angry about a righteous cause. Now, I don't think it's wrong to get angry about a righteous cause, but sometimes we get angry and we don't hate the sin only, we also hate the sinner, or we get angry at other people without isolating them from their sin, and we think that that's righteous, and it's not. The other meaning for that little verse in verse 20, that the wrath of man does not equal the righteousness of God, meaning that no matter how mad you get, God's righteousness is more. Like we can't raise our wrath to the level of God's righteousness, right? Because his righteousness is so good and so overabundant that it can't raise to that level. So it can mean any one of those three things. But in this case, I think that what we try to do, what horses try to do, what I try to do, is we try to be swift to speak, swift to wrath, and slow to hear, right? And then something bad happens. We get mad. And then we're not righteous anymore, or we don't feel righteous anymore, and then we feel bad about ourselves. So I want to just illustrate with Moses one more time. And beloved, before I do this, I just wanted to let you know, I've worked through this in my own heart. I work through it all the time, especially being swift to hear and slow to speak. That is something I have got to work on. I don't know about you, but I have really struggled with this, and I struggle with it daily. I have got to speak to the Lord about it all the time to make me swift to hear and slow to speak. What are we supposed to be swift to hear? We're supposed to be swift to hearing his voice and slow to speaking our own and slow to wrath. So because the wrath of man does not equal the righteousness of God. So if you're struggling with this like I was, my advice to you and my encouragement to you is to literally command yourself to be swift to hear. Sorry, there's a lot of flies out. Swift to hear and slow to speak. Like immediately, as soon as you feel that impulse to speak, say no. Be swift to hear and slow to speak. So we're going to go through that with Moses, and you can tell that he's really trying to humble himself under me. He's trying to be a good boy, trying to be swift to hear and slow to speak and slow to wrath, but sometimes he gets a little annoyed. So I'm going to show that to you, and just think about yourself. When you see this horse going around, the signs of his annoyance are raising his head, looking the other way, swishing his tail. That's him speaking against what I'm asking him to do, and that's him producing a little bit of wrath, okay? So just watch for those. When he's licking his lips right there, actually that's a sign of submission. So he doesn't really understand why I'm just standing here. But let's see what he does, and maybe those signs that I've given you, think about yourself and how you are trying really hard to be swift to hear and slow to speak and slow to wrath, but sometimes it still comes out, just like it does in Moses, okay? Here we go. Come on. He wants to stand here. It's the evening and he wants to just stand. Ruby, watch out. Be swift to here. Ruby, move it. Remember what I told you about his tail switching. See there? He just was like, I don't want to go the other way. I don't want to go the other way. He's like, I want to do what I want to do. Right? You can't see me right now, but he's really swishing that tail. Right? Whoop, careful. We're going to go over here so you can see me a little better. Whoop. And we're going to come back up. He's really swishing that tail. Now, granted, there are a lot of flies out, but he's just being kind of right there. He didn't swish his tail until right at the very end. And so, because he's trying to tell me, Wednesday, I want to go here, I want to go there. And I don't want to go where you want to go tonight. I want to go off with my buddies and go eat grass. Does that make sense to you? I hope that it does. I hope that you understood the illustration using the horse, how he acts so much better when he's swift to hear and slow to speak and slow to wrath. And the same thing with us. We act so much better, our lives are so much better when we're swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Remember that our wrath does not equal the righteousness of God. Just like him getting mad doesn't make him act better, right? Us getting mad doesn't make us act better. It makes us act worse. So it's the same thing with a horse. It makes the situation way worse when a horse gets angry. Same thing with us. When we get angry, it makes the situation way, way worse. Anyway, I wanted just to take a little time out of your evening. Thank you for watching, and remember that I love you and that Jesus loves you. I'm going to get down now. Bye. Bye.